Well, here we are. It's a Monday morning edition of the BCJ podcast. I'm Chad Brendel. He's David Simone. Welcome everybody to the chat. Dave, getting this on Twitter real quick.
I'll go ahead and apologize. I somehow lost my voice yesterday without screaming, without doing anything.
You lost your voice before the Bengals game.
Yeah, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Like, how does that happen?
No idea.
Not at the Bengals game. Not
Nope.
Not cheering on the Bengals' third consecutive victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. But before the game, at the tailgate. So Cincinnati's hired Scott Satterfield, Dave. Thoughts?
Initial reaction has nothing to do with Scott Satterfield football in general. I made a post last night on the board that the only way this could be any better than what was going on for the last week was that they hired someone that had never been mentioned in a million views and who knows how many posts on how many threads. And I'm pretty sure, obviously I'm not going to go back and count.
He wasn't mentioned once.
I didn't see all of them. I'm pretty sure no one mentioned him a single time. And that
not once.
And that to me is the leading part of all this and it's hilarious and awesome, and it literally went to someone that we've never talked about at all.
Don't falk up. Nobody mentioned the recruiting class at Louisville. Talk to Louisville media member. They have a ton of NIL. Need to catch up to that first. Look, we're gonna mention it.
They're not going to Louisville anymore. They might not all come to UC, but I can guarantee you they ain't going to Louisville.
It is Adidas NIL based, yes. But they're clearly down to participate in the NIL game, right? Now, maybe Cincinnati's got some work to do to catch up in that department. But Professor Butts says grad transfer Malik Cunningham.
Maybe. I'm just going to say maybe about everything.
Everything?
Because, I mean, at this point, we don't know.
I got a text right as I was going to bed last night that said Scott Satterfield. And I was like, you got to be bleeping kidding me. In light of everything that's happening, the bowl game, wow. It's it's a doozy. That's for sure. This is the thing I'll say. I've never seen this before. You guys, as the room is filling up, Scott Satterfield finished second to Luke Fickell in 2016. Cincinnati was very, very close to hiring Scott Satterfield in 2016. He had a lot of donor support, so I guess that makes some sense, right? If you had donor support in 2016, you probably still have it. He's an offense guy. Louisville's had, look, the one thing I will say about Satterfield and Louisville, they've been going through a lot. That has not been an easy place to recruit or win lately because of the disaster that athletic department was. Does that excuse, give Scott Satterfield a free pass? No. But winning there has not been the easiest thing of late because of their own transgressions.
I mean, it's pretty clear he was trying to get out to the South Carolina job.
Well, he was trying to get out the day he got there.
That's what I mean. It wasn't long after he was there that something from his standpoint was not
right.
Was not right. I think outside of Clemson, I'm just not sure these ACC programs, maybe Florida State, because they're kind of like a legacy program. Like, I just don't think it's a good fit, especially for Louisville in that conference. I think it's hard to push up to the top. And that's why I think you saw like this big push from Adidas, because Adidas needs them to be good.
Yeah. They're definitely a flagship for Adidas.
And I just think it's not, whether it's the athletic department, whether it's being in the ACC, it's just not a stable situation right now.
Right. I'm still processing, I guess, is the
For
right
sure.
way to put it.
For sure. I mean,
ultimately, do you like it?
Yeah.
My buddy Drew does say he would like to point out he said Satterfield on the BCJ podcast the other night. Now,
Okay.
The caveat of that is Drew is a Louisville fan, and he was hoping UC took him.
Well, yeah, because they would all love to get Jeff Brom.
Right.
But Jeff Brom apparently is making like twice as much money as Scott Satterfield was.
Jeff Brom's making a lot of Louisville prints money though. Like they can pay Jeff Brom whatever they need to pay him to get him.
Sure, but I think that's why they're not going to be too mad about this, is because they think they're just going to go get Jeff Brom and bring him home and everyone will be happy. And, I think it has less to do with Scott Satterfield and more to do with the possibility of Jeff Brom.
Well, and also to do with, because of that South Carolina stuff that happened after year one, there was a segment of their fan base that was out on him.
Absolutely. And I don't really have an issue with that. If you're already looking to bounce and it doesn't work out and then you're back, like if I'm a fan of them, I'm probably not happy about that. Mo just retweeted, and I don't know who Evan Dennis, it's a covers sports in Kentucky. He's like, too bad Dion already took the Colorado job. Could you see him just flipping and going to Louisville?
I mean, you want to talk about, if Louisville was Under Armour, like I could see it. They're Adidas, like he's dialed in. He's sponsored by Under Armour.
Right, but I mean, is Colorado Under Armour?
No, they're Nike. I'm just saying that would have made, like, if they were Under Armour, that would have created that connection, is I guess what I'm saying. He's offense first, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I know a little bit about his offensive coordinator, Lance Taylor, who's he's got some young, like, energetic staff members, good recruiters. Lance Taylor's been at Notre Dame. He's been a running back coach for Christian McCaffrey at Stanford, Kyron Williams at Notre Dame. He coached for the Panthers. He coached the wide receivers for the Panthers when they had DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel. So he's got some bona fides to him. Was with Satterfield, I think. Was he with Satterfield? I'm trying to read this all super fast. He was at App. This is like, we're going to be a terrible show because we're trying to do 1,000 things at one time.
Right.
But good recruiter, good running back coach. Obviously the running backs that he's coached have produced, has been at a high level. I always just felt that a sitting head coach was going to be the call.
You did?
The transition, what John did with Wes, I think it matters. And Scott Satterfield's been a very successful coach at App State, not as successful at Louisville. I don't know enough of the details to tell you why. But he's got well-established. That's the other thing. Well-established assistant coaches, a coaching network. That was my concern with some of the MAC guys. Were we going to have to bring their entire staff? Who did they know to build a staff around? That was a big concern when I was looking at a Mo Lindquist or Sean Lewis. Defensive coordinator, I would assume Brian Brown. He's the associate head coach. I assume he's going to come with him. Another young guy. It's interesting. It matters because football teams are very diverse. Lance Taylor, Brian Brown, both minority coordinators.
Yeah.
So, it matters. Like there's only, I think with Dion now going to Colorado, I think there's 8 minority head coaches in all of Power 5.
Yeah.
L. Kern 28 asks how old he is. I think he's 49. So he's not super young, but he's not looking.
Pretty much is the exact same age as Luke Fickell, right?
I think so.
I think Luke's 49. Keep going.
People might remember Wesley McGriff. He's their Cody coordinator. He's had a long coaching career. Florida, Saints, like these guys have long coaching backgrounds. So the staff, whether that means that anybody, Carey, Walt, any of those guys end up staying, no idea. But
yeah.
I mean, they have a veteran staff. I assume he's going to bring most, if not all of them. It's usually how it works at this level.
Yeah. I just sorting through things. My phone is about to catch on fire right now. The bowl game makes it even more like, everybody's been clamoring for the keg of nails to return, Dave.
Yeah.
The keg of nails returns, and one guy is going to maybe coach both teams.
Yeah, like which half is he going to coach Louisville, and which half will he coach UC?
Well, I think you owe it to your new school to coach them in the second half, right?
When the important decisions need to be made.
Yeah, when the important decisions need to be made, and that he can tank the first half coaching them.
The important decisions of a meaningless bowl game.
I mean, I think I have to go to Boston now.
I mean, media availability will be fun.
I think I have to go to Boston now. Somebody asked, did he cross paths with Pinto? No. Louisville hired him late 2018, early 2019. Pinto was gone there early 2017. So, hey, Kel, will you give me a Coke? I need some caffeine. Woken from a slumber with Scott Satterfield is official.
Yeah, you called me early, so I was like, why is Chad awake?
I'm usually awake around the time Kelsey goes to school. I just go back to sleep. I'm up late. I'm working late. Offense, like it did. Malik Cunningham is a dual threat guy.
Yep.
He's clearly. They ran dual threat too at App State, didn't he? A lot of like RPO,
it's just like
read option.
more of like the spread. The spready, throw it around. Yeah. Yes. Let's see what else. these.
What was their recruiting like coming into this year? Like, if everybody wants to look at they got a bump. I guess I can pull that up while you're
what was it last
like
year?
previous years, yeah.
Here, hold on,
I've got it. '22, they were 35th overall. They beat out UC for their top recruit, Popeye Williams. Maybe look at that in the portal. 4 stars, a safety, a defensive lineman from Louisville that UC recruited, a wide receiver, and Popeye Williams on the edge. A lot of Florida, Indianapolis, Georgia,
yeah, they're big in Florida and Georgia,
Mississippi, DC, Georgia, Tennessee, Carolina, where he was from, makes sense. Michigan. Let's see. So it's not like they were, terrible. 41 and 20.
Well, no, and they've played the portal big time.
Yeah.
So they have the connections there. They have they've spent the time in the portal to know, who's available, where to go. I mean, last year they had 12 guys. And this is just off of what 24/7 is showing. We know that can be off. Like in the Buffalo case, 24/7 doesn't show near as many transfers as Buffalo had to have.
Yeah.
And they had 6 in 2021.
So, I mean, look, if the 2 boxes that Cunningham talked about, NIL and like recruiting, being able to hit the portal, they can do those things. This one certainly checks those boxes, right?
Yeah.
So, I still rabbit out of a hat, man.
Oh, it's hilarious.
So do you think Thamel said this came together last minute? Do you think maybe there's a chance?
Well, he said like
with all the names, the deal, yeah.
The deal. So maybe that's when it, finally got done. We don't know how.
Where do you think they met halfway? Carrollton? Sparta?
The racetrack?
Maybe they met at the racetrack.
There's a strip club.
Shame.
There's a strip club.
Closed.
Oh, I was going to say there's a strip club across the street from the racetrack.
Maybe they met at Racers, but that Racers is closed. Kitty wants some screen time. Yeah, I mean, he's been a head coach for a long time. Walt's hitching post is not halfway.
It's not even close. It's practically in Ohio.
It's by my house. You guys are nuts.
This is Galati. Imagine recruiting kids from Louisville to Cincinnati. It's a lot like Louisville, but better.
But better, yeah. Love it. It's a lot like Louisville, but better. They should probably just put that on the highway as you're driving from Louisville to Cincinnati. Cincinnati, a lot like Louisville, but better.
But not as shitty.
Yeah. Good news. He's 2-0 against UCF. There is that.
Yeah.
There is that. Louisville coach and UC did meet at Racers. Louisville AD meet at Racers. Pinto just had a heart attack. Yeah. Yeah. He's having flashbacks. Every couple of miles, it's getting better.
See, it's getting better.
Eric says this wasn't the dream I had. Was this the dream you had? Are we going to be outside today?
No, the dream I had, I don't remember what the coach's name was. I think he was from Charlotte, but not the head coach. Very, very weird when you're dreaming about, coaching, fictional coaching candidates.
So what do you make of John Cunningham and how this has all been?
I mean, I have no idea. It's just everything was so all over the place, at least from what we were able to gather. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, I don't know how much he'll divulge today.
Right. Probably not much. I love the Xavier trolls. Like, you didn't have this on your hot board. Hey, dipshit. Nobody had this.
Hold on, you talk real quick. I'm gonna listen to something.
All right. Can you hit mute at least? Okay. Let's look at the chat. Can we renew the rivalry game? I would guess not. Miles Montgomery seems to like it. Satterfield didn't even have this on his hot board. You might be right. You might be right. Godfather approved. Norwood football doesn't have a hot board. They might. They might. It's coming. Norwood football. Dave was looking for a coach with his better than Mac 2.0. What did Chip Kelly reach out? I've heard from a couple people that Chip Kelly did inquire. I don't know how far that went. But similar situation. I don't think Chip Kelly wants to go to the Big Ten. But I don't know that Chip Kelly is good at this anymore. Like, what he was at UCLA was not what he was at Oregon. They weren't innovative. They weren't explosive, at least up until points this year. I don't know if that was UC. He reached out and UC said no, or he just reached out to whoever had a job and would listen. And they didn't find a common ground. But I did hear that Chip Kelly was at least doing his due diligence, let me say. The cat is dying to host this podcast. Dying to host.
She had a procedure earlier this week, and she won't now won't leave me alone.
Pay attention to me, Dave. Pay attention to me, Dave. What were you listening to?
A little video from Bud Elliott, who's with 24/7, just talking about how booster. You have to remember that these are still jobs, and Scott Satterfield was probably these boosters have been trying to get me out of here, get Jeff Brom. They think they're going to get Jeff Brom. They want to try to get Jeff Brom. It
has to wear on you.
At some point, you're like, whether it's a huge step up, small step down, you're like, just go reset your clock. Go get another new guaranteed contract. And then you just don't have to worry about that stuff anymore.
Right.
Where every game you're wondering, is this the game that if we lose, some booster's going to walk into the AD's office and just go, I don't care if we know if we're getting Jeff Brom or not. We have to try, That would be tough to deal with. If you were at your job and every day there was a group talking about you in the corner saying we got to get him out of here so we can hire our friend. At some point, you're just I just want to get something different and be done with this.
Yeah, I mean, that part of it, that makes complete and total sense. Again, he kind of did it to himself because of the South Carolina thing, 1 year on the job.
Allowing that to become public.
Yeah.
Which we know coaches do that stuff all the time. It just doesn't become public.
Right.
But if you're a year in and you're already doing that,
something's off.
That's just weird. And we'll never know the answer to any of that. But if you're a year into a job and South Carolina is, yes, it's in the SEC, but it's not it wasn't a great job at the time. So you're just trying to get out to a good job, better job. I mean, South Carolina's a better job than Louisville.
Right.
But
What does this tell you? 2019, they were 71st in recruiting. 2020, 44th. 2021, 41st. 2022, 35th. 2023, 19th. So that shows me a guy that is at least on a uptick, right? Like figuring out what high major recruiting is like. I think that is when you're recruiting at an Appy State and you're dealing with kind of a small pool,
right. What kind of
where
staff,
they're at.
Yeah, and like what kind of staff changes has he made over the last couple of years? Your first year anywhere is usually not going to be great, and especially moving from like an App State to a Louisville.
Yeah.
Like you're not, because it's not like you're going to bring a bunch of those same kids.
But what I was joking at before, Dave, do you think Cunningham was using BCJ to vet all the candidates and nobody liked anybody?
I mean, people have thrown up trial balloons very quickly in the past on Twitter and things. I know that happens. You throw candidates' names out there, you gauge the reaction. And that's not like your deciding factor, but I mean, it happens for sure.
Thanks for the donation, GMAC. I appreciate you'll still be here listening after our 500 winning percentage after 4 years. Sorry that John had to drop kick the growth of this channel. Guess what? We tend to do better when it's not going well, honestly, because people will need a place to come and bitch, right? So,
yeah. I mean, could just compare the football board to the basketball board over the last how many years?
Right. The basketball board, lots of complaining. The football board, pretty smooth sailing. More posts complaining than there are smooth sailing. Reagan said she loves your cat.
Oh, thank you, Reagan. Bruce Feldman brings up a good point. Louisville has a good option in-house with defensive coordinator Brian Brown. 39-year-old former Ole Miss DB was with Satterfield when they had a top 5 D at App State, and this year at U of L was number 2 in the nation in sacks and number 3 in takeaways. Guys play really hard for him.
Hopefully he can bring him to Cincinnati.
I'm sure he'll.
Hopefully they're trying to hire Jeff Brown.
I'm sure he'll be the interim.
Yeah, probably.
So, which kind of stinks because then he's not out recruiting for you.
Yeah.
Or I guess he could be.
I mean, they still will.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean.
No. Concerned that he can't beat Kentucky, really.
No, not
rivalry
really.
Game, end of the year. Kentucky's kind of owned him.
I mean, Malik Cunningham, did he even play in this? He's been banged up.
He did, yeah.
He's been banged up the second half of the year. I don't know if he even played. Kentucky's a good program too. I mean, they have quality guys.
Fisher, where have you been? Is Greg Scruggs still on staff? Really? Greg Scruggs is in the NFL with the Jets. Walt Stewart was notoriously hired to be the defensive line coach. Did your Bearcat Journal subscription run out last offseason? Where have you been? And I say that because I know him, Fisher. I can give him a hard time a little bit. It's not like Kentucky was bad. I'm not saying Kentucky was bad. I'm saying, what, 19, 20, 21, 22, 4 years? He has struggled against Kentucky every year.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Worried a little bit that it's Georgia, Florida based and not Texas based.
I mean, not really, just because like there wasn't going to be everything. You weren't going to get Ohio guy, head coaching experience, but also has some Texas recruiting ties that has been at a program that is good or, up and running in NIL that also has a head coach. Like, I just didn't see that. Like, who is that guy?
Scott Satterfield, kind of.
He's close. I say he's like the closest.
Yeah.
You wanted a head coach. You clearly wanted a head coach. So you wanted someone that could run a program, could transition into the Big 12. He mentioned NLI. Okay, well,
NIL.
whether it's NIL, I always say that. Whether it's through Adidas or whatever, he has an understanding of how the thing works.
Yeah.
You wanted recruiting. Now, is part of that recruiting tied to that? Sure. But not every kid is in that situation. You want young, but experienced. You wanted someone that had a staff that you felt comfortable with. I think there's several in his staff that you feel comfortable with. He has recruited the area, though. They have Indiana kids on the roster. It hasn't been as much Ohio. I'm sure they're not recruiting Cincinnati. They're 100 miles away.
Right.
So it's not – I think all those things together, I think it's a pretty darn good deal, pretty darn good hire.
All things considered, yeah, I do think, maybe a change of scenery will help him out. Maybe not. And I think I just saw somewhere. Jim, by the way, thank you. Was at UC from 67 to 72. We've come a long way. Let's just not go back to those days. Greg Cook was pretty good, right? Get another Greg Cook in here. I think that'd be okay. Anyhow. Any news on a press conference? No. The team right now, they have bowl practice to play Louisville at 9:45 this morning. So they're definitely in the building for sure right now. Yeah. Wasn't he nearly fired to begin the year until he turned it around? I mean, he only had 2 years left on his contract, which when they don't roll you over, when you don't have 4 years on your contract, that is flashing red lights. Probably this is headed towards divorce, right? Like when the husband starts working late and the wife can never get a hold of him after like 7 p.m., you're headed for divorce. That's what letting a contract get to 2 years is about. So he got out. He left her before she left him, right?
Yeah. I don't blame
All spare that, that's how things go in college sports sometimes. Does Satterfield know the UC donors, and that's why they're backing him during the fix search? I don't know if knows them, but I can tell you there were some big donors that wanted Scott Satterfield in 2016. So maybe that played a factor in this. And that means you're going to have the support of at least some of the money people, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the money people were like, look, this is who I wanted. Go get him. What happened to Urban? Michael, whoever told you Urban Meyer was a candidate, never talk to that person again. They don't know what they're talking about. Your cat now is just like stolen the show, Dave. Everybody wants to talk about your cat.
The cat's name is Pickle.
What does big donors mean? Like more than all of that.
All those numbers.
Yes. Like name on buildings type stuff. Name on buildings type stuff. Mick!
What's up?
Interesting morning for you too, huh?
I know. I don't think you're thinking about me when this happens, but I know after it said it, and you had to get a little laugh out of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, business is business, right?
I know. You were just excited to hand all this over and just be like, whatever.
So what do you got on Scott Satterfield? Tell me what you know.
If I'm talking to So you obviously have more of the insider industries type of things. I'm just talking to other people that cover recruiting and just some high school coaches. A lot of the consensus seems to be either they don't know him or the people that know him do like him. So it's a hit or miss on obviously him being from App State and being from North Carolina. He doesn't have many ties up here. So obviously that's going to be something he'll talk about, address. And I imagine luckily Ohio is a good coaching state. So you'd have to think he's able to find some guys that can help him develop some ties within the state quickly.
Yeah, I mean, you would think like you're going to want to keep one or two coaches, I would think.
Yeah.
Just for continuity, for knowing the region, knowing what UC is all about. I mean, I know guys want their staff, but a Walt Stewart, maybe a Kerry Combs. Like, I don't know if he and Kerry's a relationship guy. He's tended to go where his relationships have been the strongest. At least past history, maybe staying home changes that. I don't know. But I mean, like a Walt would seem like fairly fluid, and I don't want to say easy, but very logical, right?
Yeah, and then obviously I don't want to throw names out there, but like Mike Daniels is no longer at Georgia Tech. Like those type of guys are out there in the coaching industry that he could bring on and have good connections with around the city, around the state.
What do you think of Louisville's 19th ranked recruiting class? Yes, we know it is heavily NIL fueled, especially at the top. But I mean, there's some interesting names on there, albeit mostly from the South and from California.
Yeah, and I mean, part of that is the guy that they got at quarterback just led them into that being such a chunk of the recruiting class. But I think it being heavy NIL, it just shows you. I mean, it's one of the things John Cunningham talked about at the very beginning, that he wants somebody that understands that going forward. And it seems like Scott Satterfield has that understanding from the recruiting perspective of it all.
Dave, you got any questions for Mick?
Sorry, I'm trying to do some other work.
Like you have a real job or something?
Yeah. What do you think when you talk to guys about NIL and stuff like that, has that at all started to trump relationship with coaching, or is it still just relationship with coaches and then, yes, this is cool, that then this is also now a part of it?
I think there's definitely like tiers to the whole system of it all. Like there's guys that when you're in a tier of like maybe like a I don't want like a certain level of schools, those higher level schools, when they bring NIL in, then that obviously becomes a factor. But when it comes to the low, like the lower mid tier programs, and I don't know where Cincinnati necessarily falls, but there's definitely programs that can trump programs with NIL. But when all living things are level, I think most guys still rely on the relationships. But still, we're also so new to it that and it's somewhat new to it's. Last class, it definitely affected the top tier guys, but now it seems like it's falling down through pretty much all the ranks of recruiting. So it'll be interesting to see how it affects it going forward.
Reach back out to Malik Elzy. You're like, hey, what's good?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even looked at the class at the Louisville class. I don't know if there's guys you could reach out to. I don't know if there's guys that they could get. I have no real clue on that.
Have you started to reach out to the UC guys yet, or is that your next plan of action?
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do next. You said we don't know if we're going to have anything going on today for the rest of the day.
I'm guessing there's going to be a press conference today. I'm awaiting an email.
Okay.
The rumors are 1 o'clock. If they're going to do something in 4 hours, that would be nice to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. At some point, I have to go back and check my phone here because I'm getting like 30 texts every 15 minutes.
Yeah, a lot of shock. Even the coaches you talk to, which high school coaches are, I don't really think they let themselves get caught up in it much, but even they are somewhat shocked that he made that move.
Like I said, I got the first whiff of it right before I went to bed last night, and my reaction was, shut the fuck up. Like, it's what? Really? And sure enough, 7:30 this morning, it's coming.
Gotcha. And then, I just got another message from Andrew Ivins, who is the Southeast recruiting guy for 24/7. He talked about some of the staff he has now at Louisville, which is very. And you guys mentioned the Florida, the Georgia, the California base, and it sounds like his staff has a lot of ties down there. So Ivins is interested to see if he brings some of those guys with them to then continue that Florida recruiting, or who knows if he tries to build out a staff that can recruit Texas like we're talking about. But even then, that's something obviously a lot of people brought up about recruiting Texas. But the thing is, when you're going to go into the state of Texas, you're going to fight for the same tier of guys that Baylor, TCU, and Oklahoma State, all those guys are, and you're not going to beat them on proximity, so it's going to be hard. And so that's what kind of makes, you have to stay kind of still in that 300-mile footprint, or 300-mile radius that they've talked about for a while.
These recruits aren't going to follow. They're either staying in Louisville or going elsewhere. Hey, Dan, how about we let it play out? Maybe none of them come to Cincinnati. Maybe all of them come to Cincinnati. But before we jump off the cliff, let's see what coaches are coming with him. If he has a press conference today, let's see who's there. Like, let's at least see where this thing heads before we start making definitive statements about things that you don't know.
And to the point, like you said right there, you don't know, but also like Satterfield might have not been the selling point, but he understands what the selling point was. I don't know how Cincinnati's equipped, but he obviously understands what he has to do certain things. And I imagine that's part of what made him an interesting candidate for John Cunningham and to fill the role that Cincinnati.
Yeah, like the number one running back in the country can get an NLI deal anywhere he wants to get an NLI deal. So it's not necessarily
NIL. I'm gonna beat NLI out of your head one of these days.
I don't care.
I'm just gonna correct you every time. NIL. Name, image, likeness. NIL.
I'll just say
NLI.
A deal.
The only reason I don't like you saying NLI, because NLI is National Letter of Intent. And that can easily be misconstrued as something that it is not.
Anyway, that kid can get a deal wherever he wants.
Dyslexic Dave to the rescue.
So it's not like he's, he probably got the best deal from Louisville. So he's going to go wherever he get the next best deal if he doesn't want to go to Louisville. So I'm not saying like he's going to be a Bearcat, but some of these kids probably do have a good relationship with these coaches and their position coaches where that might not be as big of a factor. And you might get a couple. It's more important to me. It's way more important to me keeping our class together and the kids that did like UC and maybe trying to bring some of those guys back in that entered like the decommitted or didn't even necessarily decommit, but they're just looking at their options. It's more important to try to get those guys back in the fold and keep the ones you have versus looking at Louisville's commits and thinking that they're just going to take all those guys.
I'm too optimistic. Is a 25-24 record the selling point? I'm not anything, GMAC. I don't freak out either way. I'm not saying this is going to be a great hire that UC is going to win the Big 12 in 2 years. I'm not saying it's a terrible hire. I'm saying it's the hire. Like that's what we do here. Our job is not. We'll have plenty of opinions on whether we think it's a good hire or not. We're processing right now because we just spent 9 days covering a coaching search, and I didn't get the coach's name until midnight last night. At the very end of day 8. So there's still a lot to process here. If you want to freak out, freak out. That's fine. But that's not how we do things. You should know that by now. Louisville's NIL is funded through Adidas. Yes.
Yeah.
Cincinnati's going to go Adidas. Let me explain something to you. Louisville is one of the 2 or 3 flagships of Adidas. Adidas is deeply invested in the success of Louisville. They have been a partner with Louisville for a long, long time. They needed Louisville to be good. So they started sinking money into it through NIL. If Cincinnati signed with Louisville is not doing that with UC. It's just not how it works, right, Mick?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think Adidas can't. However they funded this, I don't think Adidas came to them with a list of the 14 or 15 commits in Louisville's class and said, buy these guys or get these guys. That Satterfield or whoever's on his staff, whoever he brings, has to understand what to do with NIL money, how to go about it, how to find guys that fit the system. And like, yes, NIL money played a factor, but he still has to understand the inner workings of it. And I imagine, like we've talked about, that has to have been a talking point. It had to have been something that was brought up and John Cunningham liked about him, because he has to still understand the inner workings of it all.
Right. Uh-oh.
2 cats.
What?
Now mine wants in.
Oh. Well, like Aiden Green, I would definitely be going right back to Aiden Green and being like, in this offense, like, you still love use
Amari Anderson too, I believe. There's a ton of guys on those layers of it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, they recruited Michigan a little bit, proximity wise. I think in their 2022 class we talked about, one of their top 4 commits was a safety from Michigan. So they have had some success up there. They should be able at least to keep that connection flowing a little bit. Obviously, you're no longer the staff that recruited Ahmad Gardner, but you're still – Cincinnati had a lot of juice in Michigan, as you know, Mick. Like they had a lot of momentum up there. So if you're a staff that's coming in – Hey, Drew, what's going on, buddy? You want to get this thing really spicy? We'll get Drew in here and get his thoughts on Scott Satterfield. I don't think they're good. Visors in. Yeah, they're going to have to up the visor budget.
Yeah, but I mean, you mentioned Michigan. Obviously, now that they had the NIL money, I think they expanded the board. But you look at their classes before, a lot of Louisville, a lot of Indianapolis, Chicago, Michigan. Like, they understand the area of where they're trying to, of what Louisville is. And I think you'll understand that even better at Cincinnati, because like I'm saying, Cincinnati's not just going to join the Big 12 and go into Texas and beat Baylor and TCU and Oklahoma State for all these guys that they want. Like, it's going to be hard to do that.
Yeah,
they have to continue to do what they've done.
You have to build a presence down there. I mean, you're going to have to get more than a Drew Donnelly every couple years. They're going to have to build a presence. But I mean, that presence is 2, 3, 4, 5 guys a year over time. You're not just going to like reshape your entire coaching staff with Texas ties when you're not as big of an outlier as West Virginia, but you're still an outlier. Like, you still have to do your bread and butter.
Yeah.
Who is dinging?
I know.
Oh, that's me.
Oh.
Sorry.
Fake John Goebel with the 10. Great coverage, guys. Chad, here's a donation to get some actual background material that you can read. I like it this way. We're very minimalist here. Very minimalist. Mick, you don't have the normal background.
I
We're
moved.
like
This is my apartment.
Okay.
I'm an adult now. Since the last time I've been on, I got married. I have 2 dogs now, and I'm a house husband.
It's fun, isn't it?
Do you want to answer this one, or do you want me to?
I don't think it matters anymore. He was never going to be in this class, Dave McCullough. Academically, not good.
And obviously, this is big picture, but his brother Deshaun's going to be tied to this in some shape, form, or fashion. And I don't think Cincinnati is going to be the destination.
I'm wondering if he goes to Notre Dame, his brother.
I'd imagine he was, from obviously covering Ohio State, he was very close to the people that were at Ohio State. I don't know if he finds a way to work in there, but yeah, you're right. He's probably going to go to some power of a program. But like you mentioned, Day's been Oklahoma offered Day a while ago, and
there's a connection between his dad and somebody on the staff that he played with in the NFL. So that's the tie to Oklahoma. But I can tell you with certainty, Dave McCullough was not going to end up in Cincinnati's 2023 class. And Dave, how long have we been talking about that since the day he committed?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the coaching change.
No, he wasn't going to get in. So
and obviously all the commits, you want to retain them all, but the one worth keeping,
Brady Drogish,
it has to be, because you lose Luther Richardson last year. You have Evan and I imagine Brady Lichtenberg. I don't know what the situation with Ben Bryant is. Obviously, the transfer portal is open, but you have to continue to stockpile. You can't be caught where you're having to look for transfers and guys like that. Not to mention how he would fit in an offense like Scott Satterfield's.
The question would be Louisville's quarterback commit, Clarkson, who is a 4-star from California, but that's where the NIL stuff was supposedly in play the most.
For the background on that, his dad is a big quarterback trainer, quarterback guy, Steve Clarkson, Adidas guy, runs a big camp every year through Adidas stuff.
Yeah.
So that is where that's likely going to stay. And that's why all the St. John Bosco and whatnot happened in California happened because of that.
Adidas was able to take care of the 7-on-7 program. Right. That's what that's all about. All right, Mick, get on the phone. Get us some some reactions. See what the kids have to say. And start with the guys that have Louisville offers.
All right.
I gave you a cheat sheet. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you coming on.
Yep. See you. Hey, let me know. Okay. Text me if you.
He took himself out before he
I don't know.
finished his sentence. If I hear anything on a press conference, I'll let you know. Of course, Craig Carey is freaking out. The only time Craig Carey texts me is when he's freaking out.
What is he freaking out about?
Now he's ready to fire Cunningham.
Why?
I don't know. Everything he texts me is like panic.
Okay.
I love Craig, but he panics. He's a panicker. Craig, let's see. Yeah, 1 p.m. is what I've been hearing. I'm just, confirmed. Press conference at 1 o'clock.
Well, I think everybody that's been clamoring for the 4 down, I think you're getting your 4 down front defensively now.
Yeah, they're 4-2-5, right?
So you got your Dante Corleone, Juwan Briggs tandem in the middle.
Yep. If Briggs comes back.
True.
Corleone is obviously all in. Obviously. Plug in the old camera, get it ready for the chaos that's about to ensue today, Dave.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys got anything else? I don't have a whole ton else.
Yeah, I don't either. Things will keep coming out as the day goes on. We just wanted to get a quick reaction, and obviously 1 o'clock, 4 short hours away.
I will. I'll have the BCJ Twitter live stream fired up. We will live stream the presser, and we'll go from there. And then we got the BBP tonight, so we'll get Ryan Royer's reaction, and gonna be an interesting day, Dave. Kudos, adversarial or admirable adversary, John Cunningham. He kept this completely off the radar of anyone. Well done, sir. Well done. That's going to wrap it up. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. This was no surprise, our largest show that we've ever done. And you guys are awesome. So Dana Beers tonight too. I don't know that's fair to Dana. Maybe I'll get with them and see. We're gonna have so much to get
Yeah,
to.
I would say no.
Yeah, just too much. Like it's too much of a. That's a fun, goofy, screwing off podcast, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about tonight. So probably not. Can somebody get Sean Lewis's thoughts? Probably. We're not real happy. I hope he's not still listening to elevator music. He had been on hold since Friday. We'll see you guys tonight. Thanks for tuning in. This is a special edition, a surprise edition of the BCJ podcast, brought to you by the Holy Grail, right here on BearcatJournal.com.